Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. I am not Steve, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But I have a question for you. Have you ever wanted to learn a new language but maybe struggled? Maybe you felt like it took too much time, or you couldn't remember things, or a language that you were interested in but was too hard. Maybe you have always thought you should learn another language, but what's the point? What are you going to use it for? Those are all topics we're going to discuss today on this episode of Coffee Breaks with Steve. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a cup of water, whatever works for you, because it is time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Right. Good morning, everybody. It is another Saturday, and it is August 17th. Guys, we're halfway through August. When did that happen? Where has this year gone? I'm not sure. I am not Steve. For those of you who have not been around the last couple of weeks, or maybe you're new to the show, welcome. I am Karissa. I am the director of Coffee Breaks with Steve, and Steve has been doing quite a bit of traveling over the last few weeks. However, I do have a surprise for you today. Steve, come on in.
I'm here. Kind of.
No, he's not here. He's not where
No.
he normally is. Where are you this week, Steve?
I've been in Las Vegas. Well, going back a couple of weeks, mom and I, your mom, my wife Carol and I had been in England for a trip that we were able to take with two dear friends who've been very close to us for many years. And this actually came up year and a half ago. They wanted to plan a trip to England, knowing that we'd been there before. Even though we're not experts, we're not tour guides for England, they asked if we would like to come along and kind of be their guides through some of it. But we had a lot of new experiences. And then Chelan, who I think most everybody knows, was going to, you have to come around here.
That's Chelan for everybody.
Who is working towards starting her professional acting career fully in the coming months, had made arrangements with a photographer in Las Vegas to do headshots. And so, you know, that could be a one-day thing. You fly into Las Vegas, get the headshots done, and fly home. And
That's
she had
not how I roll.
That's not how she rolls. So the headshots were done yesterday, and but she and I flew in on Monday. So we've been here all week, and we've been doing some of the typical Las Vegas things. I don't know what typical Las Vegas things are, but we did see a couple of shows and walked the strip. And by the way, it's been typically over 100 degrees Fahrenheit every day. Yesterday, it got up to 108.
Ew.
Yeah. So we do fly home this evening, but and so Karissa, thank you. I also want to say thank you because I know you were trying to get on the air with this episode last week, and there were technical difficulties that were beyond your control. You and I were trying to work them out while I was in the air flying home from London. It's just been kind of crazy, but yeah, you've done a great job of covering, getting things ready and covering. I'm looking forward to the conversation you've got.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's been very patient. This particular episode has been really funny. It's just been kind of wrought with several different little technical things, not the least of which is the day that we recorded this interview with my Kazakh teacher, Assel. There was a thunderstorm here, which we haven't had all year. Ironically, today that we're airing the episode, there is another thunderstorm here. So my internet may kick me out.
I'm on standby. I mean,
he's on standby.
It would be a consolation prize to what you've got in store, but at least we won't hopefully completely
he'll ad-lib it if I get kicked
We'll
out.
ad-lib it if that happens. Thank you for the everybody drink, Rick. By the way.
Yes. So before we get started, today's episode is going to be a little bit of a lengthier one. I hope that you all will bear with us because it's got really great information. However, really quickly, Steve's got some info on the sweet and savory for us here.
I do, and actually some of it is a bit of a recap. I just wanted to say thank you to a lot of people who were here, in fact, followed us. I was doing a lot of posts on Facebook during our trip, and we had a great time, and I was trying to post daily with pictures and updates on our travels, and it was a lot of fun to see the reactions and the responses. But we had a great time. The weather really cooperated with us. We were in London, but we also got out and saw a little bit of the countryside into the Cotswolds. We got to go to a place called Arundel, where they do a festival each year with not just, a lot of people can go to places where they do exhibitions of jousting. This is actual jousting competition where teams are scoring points and winning prizes for trying to whack each other with lances. Anyway, we had a great time all together. And for some of you who have watched the show in the past may remember an episode we did a while back with a lady from England who is a YouTube reactor by the name of Beth Roars. And Carol and I actually had the opportunity, reached out ahead of time and had an opportunity to get together with Beth in person for a cup of coffee one afternoon while we were in London. And she's just as sweet and wonderful in person as she is on YouTube. If you haven't gone to Beth Roars, you can find that very easily on YouTube. Subscribe to her page and watch her reaction videos. Plus, she has some of her own music on there because she's been working on an album. And I'll put a teaser out there that the one music video that releases later today, was one in which she made arrangements and got people from all over the world to actually go online and record themselves singing as part of a choir that backs up the song that's going to be released on music video. And yours truly is part of that choir and shows up in the video someplace. So we had a fantastic time there. And then we also had a couple of birthdays, and both of them, Karissa, are today. Scott
Ooh.
Platt, who is our friend, one of the, he and Jody, his wife Jody, are the friends that we went to London with, went to England with. And we did get to do some things to celebrate his birthday early while we were there. But Scott is officially celebrating his birthday today. So happy birthday to Scott. And then Carol's Aunt Roberta. Aunt Roberta is married to Carol's Uncle Mel, who is her mother's brother. But anyway, Aunt Roberta is just an amazing and sweet person. And Roberta is also celebrating a birthday today. So I wanted to wish Roberta Thompson a happy birthday as well. And, you know, we may have missed some days, Karissa. There may be some that we just, I'm traveling, you know, how much can I keep track of? I've been trying to juggle 20 zillion things. So if anybody out there does have a special day this week that we missed, love to have them go ahead and put that in the chat now, or if they have some, if any of you have something, I'm saying they, it's you. If any of you have a special day coming up later in August, before the end of the month, or even going into the fall months, and you want to make sure that we have it on our calendar, you can send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. So that's basically it. And I'm more than happy to drop into the background here and let you take over and introduce your topic. Good to see everybody. Thanks, Karissa.
Hi, thanks. All right, so we're going to get into our topic really quickly today, but first I want to introduce you to our guest, Assel. Assel is originally from a mountain town in very northwestern Kazakhstan. She earned her degree in regional studies and foreign language interpretation for English and Russian. She's done a ton of volunteer work. She's volunteered with Synergy Global Forum, the Almaty Triathlon Federation, UNICEF, and currently serves as a TikTok coordinator for other charities. Currently, she speaks 5 languages, which include Kazakh, Russian, English, German, and Ukrainian. And her interests include ecology, climate change, solid waste management, environmental problems, water resources, green economy, education in small villages, women's rights, gender equality, and project management. Today, we're going to have a conversation about several of those topics. So stay tuned and check out the conversation that we had last week with Assel. Assel, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about you and where you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, my name is Assel. I'm from Kazakhstan. I live in western part of Kazakhstan. We have a city called Ural. So I live kind of outside of the city. So it's like a small town, small district. I actually studied in Almaty. It's one of the biggest cities in Kazakhstan. I studied there. I studied international relations and regional studies there. And currently I am a lead ambassador at Extern. On top of that, I do a lot of volunteering work. I do here, I teach Kazakh and Russian to international students, which is so awesome. I love it. I volunteered like 4 times with UNICEF Kazakhstan. I was a mentor there, so I have a really extensive volunteering experience. So yeah, I really love volunteering.
You teach several languages, but you actually speak several languages. So can you take a second to explain to everybody why you have 2 languages?
Well, first of all, my main native language is Kazakh. Mm-hmm. And the second kind of native language that I had to speak growing up is Russian, mm-hmm. because of the historical events that happened, and we had to speak Russian. Everybody around me, they spoke Russian, and I had to adapt to that and also speak Russian. So kind of we say that kind of we have I have 2 native languages, but at the same time I want to take a moment to say that my main native language is Kazakh, mm-hmm. and the language that I speak fluently is Russian. I mean, again, because of the historical events, I had mm-hmm. to learn that language.
So for those who don't know, basically the geography of it is that Kazakhstan is here,
Hmm.
and this is China, and
Yeah.
this is Russia.
Yeah.
They're like sandwiched between these two
Yeah.
gigantic countries. And brief history, basically, for a really long time, Russia took over Kazakhstan. And one of the aspects of that is that for a really long time, the people living in Kazakhstan who are native to Kazakhstan actually weren't really allowed to speak Kazakh. It was really the Russians really pushed their language and their culture, and Kazakh culture actually got pretty lost during that period of
Yeah.
time. So when you go to Kazakhstan, you will find that pretty much everybody there does speak fluent Russian, but it's not
Yeah.
because it's their native language, it's because it's a
Yeah.
language that they were required to speak, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and as we are talking about Kazakh and also like the Russian influence to our country, again, like because of that, we have lost a lot of our people and also our culture and almost the language. Almost we were like almost lost our native language. So yeah, that's really sad part of our history. But we are going back to our culture and our language, which is really awesome. And Karissa, she's learning Kazakh, and so awesome. I'm so happy about that.
You and I actually met just about a year ago, and
Well,
we met through a language app called italki, which you are an instructor on. And you teach on that platform, you teach both Kazakh and Russian.
yeah.
For those who don't know about italki, it's a language learning platform which basically connects you directly to live teachers. There's also, pre-recorded lessons and things on there, but it essentially is a way to connect with a language tutor. And so that's how Assel and I met, and I started taking Kazakh lessons with her, and it's been so much fun. It's been a blast. She's great. She's a wonderful teacher. When did you start studying other languages besides Kazakh and Russian for yourself?
My next language was obviously English. I started learning it when I was 14, when my parents connected the internet Wi-Fi to our house. We didn't have internet before that time, and then I turned 14. We had our Wi-Fi finally, and then I started watching a lot of YouTube videos. I started watching, those American bloggers. They sound like they're in LA. They're like going to their coffee shops and drinking their cappuccinos or something. They were showing their lives in the US, in LA usually. I used to watch them. Like I used to watch those kind of DIY videos, do it
Mhm.
yourself videos. Like I was just pretty much watching those kind of videos, and that's how I started kind of learning English. And yeah, so I'm still kind of learning English again. Like there's no timeline. I'm still learning it. And I studied in my university German for 3 years. I studied. Now, currently, I'm learning another language. I'm learning Ukrainian now. So
So right now, technically, you speak at least to some degree 4 languages, right? So,
yeah.
well, it would be 5 because
Well,
Kazakh, Russian, English, some German, and you're learning Ukrainian. So that's
yes.
I'm so jealous. I wish I had. I don't have. I'm working on it. I'm there's a
Yeah,
part of
you
me that
are.
really wants to add like a third and a fourth language, but I'm slow enough with Kazakhs.
No, you are doing an amazing job. I'm telling you, not because you are my student, but also because it really is that that way. So yeah.
This is why I love Estelle, everybody. She is such a supportive person. I love her. She's great. I think, especially for adult language learners, it can seem really unnerving to start speaking something that you don't feel super comfortable with. And I know for me, it was really hard to put myself out there and actually work directly with another person and risk the possibility of looking really silly or sounding really stupid, especially for adult language learners who maybe face fears about trying to tackle a new language that's completely foreign. What would you tell those people who feel really nervous about starting?
I totally get that feeling. I totally do because When I was learning English, I was like, oh my God, English like is the most spoken language in the world, and I don't really feel comfortable, and I don't feel really confident speaking this language, and always this thought that you have in your mind that, oh my God, like I'm gonna make this stupid mistake, I'm gonna look so stupid. Like they are native speakers, and I'm only just learning it without realizing that I am learning another new language. I totally get that feeling. I'm here with you. First of all, second
Right?
of all, yeah. Second of all is that uh, like it's easier said than done. Always, it's easier said than done. It's so easy to say, oh, like don't be nervous, like oh, don't care, like what they think, like it's okay. I totally, I totally understand that it's easy to say that. Reminding yourself that, okay, I'm gonna make mistakes. This is for sure. Like I know that I am kind of learning this language, but I'm gonna make mistakes. Like maybe like in every sentence. That's okay. Like keep reminding yourself that fact. First of all, to get used to that thought that you are gonna make mistakes. And then the second thought is just again, as you said, putting yourself out there and trying to speak it. Again, it's gonna take some time to get used to that. Obviously, you have to put a little bit of an effort
Mhm.
to get used to that thought that you are gonna make mistakes. Yeah, just again, I think it's mind work, uh, and you just have to learn that you are not gonna be 100% fluent in your, like, I don't know, you're learning it for a month. You're not gonna feel comfortable again, like
Right.
in 6 months. People are learning one language, I don't know for how many. I'm learning English for how many years, can you believe that? And I'm
Right.
still
You're great.
I
Your English is fantastic. So
thank you. Thank you.
you're wonderful.
Thank you. But still, again, no matter the fact that I've been studying it for a while now, I still feel this frustrating, exhausting feeling that yeah, yeah, I'm gonna make mistakes, but it's okay. Let's
Yeah.
just calm down. It's okay. It's just the process. It's just the process of learning. And again, another thing is that you think, oh, like there's native speakers, they're gonna think that I'm stupid or like I'm not, pronouncing this word correctly and things like that. But I can assure you, the people who are native speakers, they are gonna think that you are absolutely amazing just because you're learning their language. You're trying to do something that's awesome. Like whenever I see you people learning Kazakh, I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Like I get so happy about that because again, Kazakh is not really popular language, and on top of that, seeing someone putting effort into your language and
Hmm.
also taking time to do that, like it's just mind blowing, and it's really, 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 really awesome.
And that's one of the things that I think that I would share with people as a Kazakh language learner is that, for me, I've got social anxiety. I really have this fear of looking stupid and being embarrassed. And when I first
Yeah.
started lessons, and even there are still some days where it's like, I just don't know if I have the mental fortitude to like look silly today. And I really had to push myself, especially for probably the first 2 months that we were doing lessons to even get on the lesson. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I kept telling myself is, even when we're learning our native languages, I mean, it's not like little kids just open their mouths and perfect sentences come out. And so I try to remember that, even when little kids start speaking, it's not instantaneous. But
For
also, the level of appreciation that you have shown every time that I tell you something different that I'm trying, or something that I shared with my students in our classroom, and to see how much you appreciate that as a teacher and as a Kazakh language speaker, that really inspires me to keep going and keep working at it. So I really appreciate that from you. When you are learning a new language, what personally do you do to kind of approach that new language? How do you go about learning?
Yeah, this is, I'm gonna probably sound super cliche saying this, but from my personal experience, what I did is that I just kept watching those videos. Like, again, I was really curious about learning people, again, in the US, how they live, what they do, and especially girls my age. I was so interested, like, how their lives look like in the US. Again, as a person who have been outside of my own country, I am really curious to learn about that. And I recommend watching and listening to podcasts, videos. Again, it's so easy, and you don't notice the impact that the watching videos and podcasts are, because you keep listening and you kind of get used to the language, the sound of the language. If it's the first time you learning new language, you just get used to the language first. This is what I did with my English, and also what I'm doing with my Ukrainian. Again, Ukrainian does have some similarities with Russian, and again, it's easier for me to learn it. But still, listening to that language over and over again, whenever I'm doing something, I'm cooking something, I'm doing my laundry, doing something, I have something. I'm always listening to music, in that language all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This really helped me. But again, it's kind of, passive learning, but it still matters. I can assure you that it still matters. And another thing I would recommend, again, putting yourself out there, actually using what you're kind of learning. Again, I I didn't have tutor, or like I didn't go to school, like English school, and I'm still not going any Ukrainian schools to learn
Right.
that language. Yeah, I wasn't really focused on that, on learning grammar. Like, oh my God, I need to learn all of the grammar of this language. I wasn't
Right.
really focused on that. I was really focused on listening more and more and more, and also trying to make some sentences with the words that I'm also learning, kind of. And again, as Karissa, you said about children, they when they're learning language, they don't go to and study grammar. They
Nope.
they just they don't do
They just
that.
talk.
Yeah, yeah,
And they don't
and
care that they have it wrong. They're just going to say what's on their mind. So I'm trying
yeah,
to use that mentality.
exactly, yeah.
I liked what you said about music, because the entire reason that I'm even learning Kazakh is because
Mhm.
of music. I found out about Kazakhstan and the Kazakh language through a musician, very famous musician right now in Kazakhstan, Dimash Kurebergen. And
Mhm.
just through his music, I really fell in love with the language. It's really beautiful. Through that, I really developed a passion for the language, and that's how I found you. And what I found is that as I'm learning with you, and I'm going back and I'm continuing to listen to these songs in Kazakh that I've been listening to for a while now, as I'm listening, I'll just be like, oh, I know that word now. I understand
Yeah.
what he's singing. And it's interesting because it's like, it's not like I'm working to find those words. I'm just hearing the things that I recognize now, and I'm starting to put those pieces together. So the passive learning, it really does work. The more you learn, the more you start to pick up in different places too, which is, I think, a great way to learn. Kazakh, as you mentioned, it's not a commonly learned language. I think a lot of people who are learning Kazakh now came about it through the same route that I did. They heard about Dimash, they learned about Dimash, they fell in love with Dimash's music, and then so now they're like in love with the language, and they're trying to find ways to learn it. One of the things that I have heard from other people who are interested in the Kazakh language or visiting Kazakhstan is, oh, there's not a ton of language resources out there, at least in America. Oh, it's a difficult language, which I have to say, in a lot of ways it is. I think once you pick up some of the basics, it's not as hard as it looks, but it
Yeah.
can seem very daunting.
Yeah.
And what many of them have told me is, oh, I just decided to learn Russian because everybody in Kazakhstan speaks Russian and it's easily accessible. So I'm curious, kind of going back to what we talked about before, what you would say to those people who are foregoing learning Kazakh because it's a little bit less accessible and just choosing to learn the Russian instead.
I'm a bit sad because of that fact that some people, because again, we don't have a lot of resources to learn Kazakh, and people say that, oh, still they speak Russian there. I'm gonna learn Russian instead of Kazakh. I'm a bit sad of that fact, but I would say that please learn Kazakh instead of Russian, because
Yes.
Kazakh now is getting popular.
Hmm.
It's just getting started. Like again, certain events really did it influence us also to realize that, oh, wait a second, we have our own language here, and we have only one language, like the main language in Kazakhstan by our law, and people sometimes get confused. They say, oh, like you guys have like two, main languages in Kazakhstan, which is not true. We have
Right.
only one, which is Kazakh. And even though the fact that we like a lot of people still speak Russian, um, people the realization came after, again, certain events in the world in near us, basically, and they did affect us, and that's why, like, even Kazakh people who are not, like, they don't speak Kazakh at all, like, we have those kind of people.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are trying to learn their native language, Kazakh language, awesome, really, really awesome. And in our media, we had a lot of content in Russian,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But nowadays, good news is that we have more Kazakh content produced, which is,
Yep.
good, really good news. I'm so excited about that. Even though, like, I also make some videos sometimes, and I do that in Kazakh. Like, I really fully support Kazakh content. So please, don't pay attention to those people who say, "Oh, like Russian is more popular," and so on. And, you know, learn Kazakh, because people are gonna appreciate it more. Yeah, we are not really impressed when people say, "Oh, I'm learning Russian." But we are more excited if you're learning Kazakh. So
Right.
because it shows us that you are actually respecting us as a Kazakh people, as people living here, and also our language, our culture, our traditions. It shows us. It really gives us a lot of context about you.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I would argue that Kazakh, personally, I found much more beautiful. It just sounds more beautiful to me. It looks more beautiful to me. The music is just fantastic. Um, and I would argue that it's much more interesting and fun to learn something that you have to put a little bit more extra effort into. I think it sticks with me more because it's not necessarily easily accessible. So I agree with you. I think that people really shouldn't take the easy route. And another point is that, Kazakh is becoming more popular, and
Yeah.
Kazakhstan is growing. Kazakhstan as an independent country is a fairly new thing coming out of those influences that affected your country for so long. You
Yeah.
guys are coming back into a new era,
Yeah.
and it's everything is still growing, and it's gonna become really, really significant, and it's already becoming very significant. And so the more people that work towards learning Kazakh, the more prevalent that language is going to become, and the more
Yeah.
resources that are going to be available. So when people put in the effort to learn it, more resources become available. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would highly recommend people go the little bit less simple route and actually put in the effort to learn Kazakh.
Another thing about Kazakh, again, is that we are having more Kazakh content. Also, like, again, as you already said, music, Kazakh music. How would you say that? Um, Let me recall this word. Um, okay, wait a second. I need to check this word.
Even in when people have their native language, there are times when we're like, okay, wait, what's the word? And there are
Yeah.
times during our lessons, because Kazakh it's not a simple language. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And there are even times when native Kazakh speakers or native English speakers are like, okay, wait, I gotta double check something.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
for those people who get nervous about it, just remember, even in our native languages, it doesn't always pop into our heads right away. We have to work at it sometimes. So,
Also, by the way, we have really amazing news about Kazakh dubs. Actually, we had Kazakh dubs this cartoon movie called what was that movie? You remember we
The
talked about it.
Inside Out
Inside
2.
Out, yeah.
Yeah.
Inside Out too, exactly. Yeah, it became like a record in our country, in Kazakh particularly. I think they collected, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, 1 billion tenge. They collected exactly with Kazakh dubs.
That's
So this,
amazing.
yeah, it really is because people are going to those in Kazakh.
Hmm.
People like the mindset of people kind of evolving when it comes to Kazakh language. Again, we also have our own problems with languages that we speak here with Kazakh and Russian, and we have arguments and discussions about which
Right.
language we should speak more, like which language should be used more, and those kind of stuff. We have that discussion all the time here, and we argue about. And again, as a society, I think uh, thank God we are really evolving when it comes to Kazakh language. It is gonna take some time. The fact that we are making progress and we are taking those steps forward, it really shows that we are growing as a society.
I love that. It's been really interesting, just even over the last year, to even watch some of the new things that are happening in Kazakhstan. For example, the Oxford Dictionary, which
Yeah.
was released, they just did a Kazakh language dictionary, which I'm very excited is now available for purchase. So Assel was kind enough to get me the link for that. But there's, even a little bit of momentum is momentum, and Kazakhstan has a lot of great things coming. I can see it. So in fact, they have coming up the fifth Nomad Games, I think, in Astana, which is a big, huge draw. They're continuing to add on these constant events and activities throughout the country that are really based on Kazakh history and culture, and bringing a lot of that back and making it mainstream again, which I think is super cool. And along with that goes the beautiful language that Kazakhstan has claim to. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me, making it available to other people. As we're wrapping this up, what would you say are like 3 key things for a language student to do to learn a new language effectively?
So I think again, the first things first, listen more again.
Mhm.
Podcast, whatever. I know that you're gonna say, "Oh no, like I don't understand anything. Like I am listening to this and I have no clue what they're talking about. I have no idea." But still, please start listening to again, not like the random things that you think that this is gonna gonna be super helpful, but the things that you are interested in your own language. For instance, again, if you're interested in self development or like business and those kind of topics, again, listen to those kind of podcasts in your target language. The first things first. Yeah, music, podcasts, watching movies, TV shows. Again, don't overwhelm yourself with that you are not going to be able to understand everything that they're saying. Don't do that to yourself. Especially if you're watching like movies and
Mhm.
TV shows that are really difficult to understand even for native speakers, and you are watching it and you're like, oh my god, I don't understand. Just freak out. No, don't freak out. Do that if you feel comfortable, not because like I said, I do that, but don't overwhelm yourself thinking that I'm gonna do it now, and after a while you get just demotivated because you're not going to be able to understand. And try to again, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't do
Right.
that with any language that you are learning. And the second thing is again, uh, if you find people who speak that language, try to again, if you find those people, um, just again, if you already learned some of the basics, I think you can already approach and say that, hey, like, can you help me with this language? Like, I can be able to help you with your target language, which is like, for instance, English or any other language. And I'm pretty sure they are going to help you, especially if you are a native English speaker. Then they're going to definitely be
Right.
like happy to help you with Kazakh or like again with any language.
Honestly, the things that you said are things that, like, I've kind of had to change my mindset to think in that way and do those things, because I've had such a hard time personally learning languages. Do you think that writing in your target language and just doing your best to write things out, is that an effective way for most people to learn a language, would you say, or does it vary?
I used to write those, I used to do my journaling in English. I
Right?
used to do that. Yeah, it does really, really help, especially if you don't want to really talk. You can do, you don't have like anyone who speak that language, for instance, for at this moment, that you can just do, journaling.
Making that personal connection to what you're writing can help you retain.
For sure. Another thing that I do, I usually write some quotes in Ukrainian in my notebook. I do that, and I just look at the words that I don't understand, and I just write them down, and I write the translation or definition of that word, and that's one of the things I do usually, and really it does really really help. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it now.
I started doing that this week. I was on Pinterest and I was having things come up that were like photographs of like books, different books, pages of books that people were reading where they'd highlighted things and they were all in Kazakh. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just copy one of these down and I'm just going to go through it and I'm going to translate as much of it as I can understand. And then I'm going to go and start looking up the other words and things like that. And it's a challenge. I mean, definitely it's challenging, but it's really fun and interesting to do as well. So that's a great tool, I think, to do that.
Yeah, it is really fun. It is, yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm going to ask you one more question before we wrap this up. Do you have any languages that are kind of bucket list languages, another language that you really would like to learn at some point in your lifetime?
Yeah, for sure. I want to learn more languages. I am planning to speak more or so fluently by the end of this year, Ukrainian. I plan to speak fluently. Okay, not like a fluent again, like to the point where, yeah, conversational. But I mean, nowadays, even now, like I do speak Ukrainian with my friends, even though I make a lot of mistakes. I make tons of mistakes. Like they they used to correct, like my friends used to correct me in my in the beginning of my journey, but nowadays they just they're like, okay, you make your mistakes, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna
we'll fix it as you go.
Yeah. And that's why like listening really does help me, because I hear how they are speaking, how they are using constructions, and I think, oh, okay, here I made mistake here. I need to correct this, and then I know what is the better way and what is the correct way of saying those sentences. It does really really help. Listening does really help. So yeah, again, I have my goal to learn Ukrainian by the end of this year, and then I plan on getting back to my German.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, I plan to learn Turkish.
Okay. So you're kind of I know that Ukrainian, Kazakh, Russian, and Turkish are all in that Turkic language realm. So it's when you already know a couple of languages in that realm, it makes it a little bit easier to start picking up the other ones, right? Yeah. Okay, cool.
For sure.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. For anybody who is interested in learning more about Assel, interested in working on languages with her, excuse me, or just interested in, for example, the Italki app where we connect and she teaches me Kazakh, I'm going to have some links in the chat here. And Assel, we really appreciate you taking the time today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy that you asked me to do this interview. I'm really glad that I was able to share some of my, I don't know, tips, maybe my journey, my experience with languages. Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Assel, and we want to say thank you again to Assel for taking the time all the way from Kazakhstan to do that interview with us. I just posted the link to her italki teaching account if you are interested in learning Kazakh or Russian. She is an excellent teacher, but italki, again, we're not affiliated with them, but just my personal experience has been a great platform for learning because there's a bunch of different teachers on there who teach in different styles and at different levels. And you can do trial lessons where you can kind of feel out different teachers. One of the really cool things about italki is that all the teachers have a bio, but they also have a video bio. So you can hear how they speak English, you can hear them speak in their native language, and you can kind of get a sense of their personality. So I highly recommend, if you are interested in any language, check out italki because it's people from all over the world. There are a lot of different resources to use. There's a lot of apps out there, a lot of programs, books, and I wouldn't say any of them are bad. I would say do your research and figure out which one has styles that are going to work best for you. And sometimes it's a combination of both or multiples. To answer your question really quickly, Kim, no, I do not currently own any books in Kazakh. However, part of the reason for that is that in Kazakhstan, one of the things they do is they just post all of their full books online. It's a really odd thing. So there's actually a site that I use where if I want to read a book, I just go to the website. However, there are companies that are now taking bestsellers, like American and English bestsellers, and translating them into Kazakh. So I will be buying some of those. Really quickly, because we are going over time here, I want to bring Steve back on. He's going to let us know what's coming up. So Steve, come on in.
I'm here.
He's
Hey,
here.
you're actually pretty much right on time. I'm
Almost
impressed,
right
and
on
I
time.
loved the conversation with Assel, Karissa. That was informative, and it was just a lot of fun. And she's obviously great. Yeah, I do want to share what's coming up in next couple of weeks on Coffee Breaks. And again, thank you to everybody who takes the time to tune in. And even when we have either planned or unexpected little pauses in the schedule, and we're not here on a Saturday or two, then you come back and join us again. Thank you so much for that. Next week, Chris Carter, who is the executive director of an organization called Livermore Arts in Livermore, California, runs the Bankhead Theater. That is a performing arts center that brings in touring acts from all over the world. Chris is going to talk about his own journey with the arts, what the Bankhead Theater and Livermore Arts does, which translates to what a lot of arts organizations around the country and around the world do, so that you can apply it to your own community, and why the arts are so important to our culture, to education, so many things in our lives. So you'll want to be here next week to hear Chris Carter talk about the importance of engaging, enriching, and inspiring people. And then the week after that, on August 31st, Shalann's going to be back here formally, even though she peeks in from time to time. And she and I are going to be talking about a topic that we're calling filling the bucket. And it's funny, Karissa, you were talking to Assel about putting other languages in her bucket list. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about bucket lists. And there's a lot of psychology around that. There's a lot of cultural and social trends around what bucket lists are, because the concept really started with the idea of saying, well, what are some things I need to do before I die? And now it's become more of just some sort of life goals. What are things that I want to aim for next? And so sometimes we don't even call them bucket lists now. We call them fulfillment lists. And there's even a psychology towards something called reverse bucket lists, where it's not what do I want to accomplish? It's what is something I never want to do, something I want to avoid. So we're going to talk about a few of those ideas and get other people's input about some of the things on their bucket list, their fulfillment list, or their reverse bucket list, if that's the case. And we'll have a great conversation around that. We also, Karissa, always want to know what the topics are that our viewers want to discuss. Who are the guests that our viewers want to see on the show? Assel was here because you have a connection with her. People who are watching the show have connections with other people. They can make introductions. I will tell you this, just as a teaser, I made several contacts and connections while I was in England that are people who may now be on Coffee Breaks in the future because we had conversations. And the thing about Coffee Breaks, it's not about finding famous people. It's not about finding celebrities. Yes, we've had people on here who may have some fame in one way or another. The reality is that Coffee Breaks is about sharing and telling stories, learning people's stories, just like what you and Assel talked about today. Those things are what break down borders and break down obstacles and break down walls and bond us together. So if you have ideas out there, viewers, about guests who should be on the show, topics that you'd like to see us discuss, let us know. cbwsteve@comcast.net is our email. And when you send us information there, we do respond. If you send us ideas there, we will respond. We want to know.
Whether
And then
you
the
want
last
us
thing,
to or not.
that's right. Whether you maybe you said I want to stay anonymous,
Yes.
but also just a reminder. I think many of you, if not all of you, are already subscribers to our YouTube channel. If you are not, would you please go there and subscribe to Coffee Breaks with Steve YouTube channel and look at. I know you may be watching here live, but our videos are out there too. And if you subscribe and if you hit the bell to do that and you like our videos and watch them, it gets more visibility for Coffee Breaks with Steve, which means even more people are going to see things like the conversation with Assel. And if you have already subscribed, would you be willing to take and do a click on the channel up at the top there, where you can click and copy the actual link and send that to your friends and let them know personally your personal testimony. Why do you tune into Coffee Breaks with Steve, and why do you think it would be great if other people watch that? So a plug for that, just because not Karissa and I aren't looking for fame. Karissa, are we looking for fame?
Well, no, not really.
Probably not. And you know, even if we were, probably not going to happen. But what we do want to do is make sure that that these conversations and these topics are shared with as many people as possible. It's happened. We've had new people come in as a result of that, and it's just amazing to see the impact it can make. So, do you want to wrap it up, or you want me to wrap it up here?
You wrap it up. We've missed you.
Okay.
Take it home.
It's a good practice for when I'm back on fully next week.
Yeah.
But
It's been a while.
listen, again, I want to say thank you to Assel. I want to say a big thank you to Karissa for putting all of this together, for filling in the gaps. And hey, the thunderstorm didn't knock you off the internet.
I'm here. It didn't
made
kick
it
me
all the way
out.
through. It was a great conversation. I also want to thank all of you for being here. When you are here and you join in the conversation, that's what brings us together. We're all around that virtual coffee table. So thank you. And, you know, remember, we all have a voice. We all have things that we're passionate about. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.